Hello and good morning, guys. Today is Happy Friday, TGIF. I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. If your day has already started, if you are initiating your day and you're just waking up, good morning to you. If you're in the middle of your day, good afternoon. If you're about to go to bed, good night. But before you go to bed, I hope that you hear this quick live in which we are reading an excerpt from the Adult Play Therapy Devotional. This is a 60-day soul cleansing devotional journal. It was created by me, R.K. Lemons Weber, and some of you may know me as Sacred Para. When you go to find this book, you can look up Sacred Para in the search engine of Amazon and get the book. If you would like to get the book directly from me and get a signed copy, you can DM me and I will sign that copy and send it off to you. Of course, there will be an exchange of money and we'll get it sent off to you. All right, guys, so today is our third day, the third day of our journey together. If you have this journal, we are able to do this together, which is a phenomenal experience. If you don't, get the journal so that we can do this together. The journal does have prompts already in it. That way you don't have to write it yourself. You didn't want to stay down here? You can stay down here. That's okay. Okay. I was talking to my husband. All right. So the journal does already have the prompts already set up in it. And you are more than welcome to be able to write these in a regular journal or notebook, but I just believe it would be more time consuming. But if you don't have a adult play therapy devotional, and you just want to get started, go ahead, get you a regular notebook until you're able to get this book. This book is just, it's an experience. You're going to be able to go back. It's kind of like a time capsule in a book. That's the beautiful thing about having something that's already in the book, right? Versus having your notebook. But if you do have the notebook, that's okay too. All right, guys. Day 3. Recognize the toxic relationships you have to interact with. And this could be your parental figures. It could be co-workers. It could be management. It could be teachers. It could be classmates. These are people and relationships that you have to interact with. Create healthy boundaries between yourself and the individuals. In this way, you are managing and prioritizing your mental health while creating an atmosphere of love and no regrets. I'll say it one more time. Recognize the toxic relationships you have to interact with, and then create healthy boundaries between yourself and the individuals. In this way, you are managing and prioritizing your mental health while creating an atmosphere of love and no regrets. Where does this come from? One of the things that we talk about very often is toxic relationships, toxicity, someone being toxic, and we don't always give an explanation of what toxicity is. Very briefly, because I like to make these morning chats with you guys brief. But very, very briefly, I would like to share with you what toxicity is. Toxicity is anything that's more of like your low vibrational energy, something that gives you uncomfortable, negative feelings. It may be that when you interact with certain individuals, it kind of like that relationship, the communication is lacking, and it can really bring out a negative side of you. You may find that around most individuals, you're very bubbly, very happy, very joyous. But then when you come in contact with someone who is more of a toxic individual, or you guys just don't really vibrate, you don't really connect, there's a lack of conversation, a lack of communication. Arguments can kind of come up. You may not really have very much to talk about. You don't have very much in common, but maybe this is an in-law, or maybe this is even someone in your own family circle, and you still have to interact with that person. Hi, Coach Play. That's my husband. He just got back from training, actually, with one of his clients. So you find that you have to interact with this person or these individuals. And the feelings that you get that are uncomfortable and make you feel negative, or you just say, who am I? I don't really feel like I'm myself when I'm with this person. I feel sad, I feel depressed, I feel angry, I feel very negative, I feel judgmental. I feel anxious every time I'm around this person. Those feelings are what you get whenever you're involved in a toxic relationship with someone. You may be someone who's very assertive, but then when you get around certain individuals, you feel more submissive and more just downcast, even abused. That's a toxic relationship. And it's very easy to say sever the ties, cut the ties, but the reality is some relationships you can't cut off. It could be parents, it could be in-laws, it could be siblings. It could even be like if you have a close-knit family, close-knit being in quotes, but you have a lot of interaction with each other. It could be cousins. And so it's harder to be like, I'm just going to cut those people off. It may be a job, and it's not that easy just to go ahead and quit that job. So you still have to be around those people. You may be in school, you may be in high school, you may be in college, you could be in grad school, and you know that you have to complete those courses to be able to get your degree or certification. And you can't just switch classes. So you have to deal with that professor. You have to deal with those classmates. How do you allow yourself the space to be able to flourish and thrive in an environment that may be toxic, or in a relationship that's toxic? And one of the things that I love that was found in my MFT studies, which is marriage family therapy studies, is that there was a therapist named Gregory Bateson, and he found that it was very possible to have healthy boundaries in a family system, as long as it was seen that the family system was the issue. So let me break that down for you, and I'm trying to make this as brief as possible. Gregory Bateson was a psychologist with a team of psychologists, and he had patients in an institution, and when patients were doing very well, they would earn the privilege to go see their family for the holiday. So when the patients did well, they earned their way to go see their parent or their family. And when they came back, Basin and his team found that the patients were actually worse than when they left. And they came to find that the individual who was the identified patient, or the IP, was actually not the cause of the issue, that they actually were the healthy individual in the family, and that they were really showing the signs and symptoms of the toxicity of the family, the dysfunction of the family, and all of those issues in the family. The symptoms were presented in the identified patient. And the reason for that is because that individual was healthy-minded, for the most part. I'm not going to say each and every time, but for the most part, they were the healthy individual. But because they were different, they were quote-unquote different from the rest of the family. The rest of the family felt like there was something wrong with them, and they weren't fitting into the dysfunctional pattern. And so out of not fitting into the dysfunctional pattern, it just kind of took a toll on them, to where they either presented anxiety issues, depression issues, being anxious. It may look like the symptoms of schizophrenia or other psychological mental health issues. But come to find out, for the most part, those individuals were in fact healthy. And he found that family therapy really needed to be done for the whole family unit versus just the one person. So this fits in because maybe you feel like something's wrong with me. I'm different than everyone else around me. Why do I have a problem with, Uncle Clarence? Or why do I have a problem with, this particular in-law? And everyone else loves them, but I seem to be the only person that clashes with them. Or why is it that everyone can function so well at work, and I'm having issues with management? Or I just feel different. And sometimes those environments can be toxic, those environments can be dysfunctional, and each person that's involved has their own dysfunction that they play in it, and it's normal to them. The dysfunction has been normalized, but for you it feels different. It doesn't feel right. And so you can feel just vibrationally that it doesn't fit for you. But we're not able to sever ties all the time. We're not able just to cut the ties. And so it's very important to recognize what what relationships can I cut the ties to, and what relationships am I kind of, to a certain degree, bound to. We talk about parents and we talk about siblings, we talk about in-laws, family members. I believe that those are relationships that to a certain extent we are bound to, and it's a little bit harder to just say, I'm going to cut ties. If you're able to, kudos. If you're not, kudos in the same breath. And you have to identify what relationships you can cut off, which ones you cannot, and then be able to create healthy boundaries for yourself. And those healthy boundaries may be, and we're going to dig more into it in the following days, that's coming up. But just being able to know, like, do I pick up the phone right now? Do I just text this individual? Just allowing yourself to have like a bubble of space. A bubble of space so that you can have your mental well-being. Really understanding what gives you peace. Maybe from, the time that you wake up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to noon or 1 o'clock is just your time where you don't really want anyone interfering, other than maybe like your kids or your spouse. But, you really don't want anyone interfering with that time. That's that space and that time where you are able to, read what you need to, so you can have your peace of mind, be it your scripture, your devotional. Hopefully not the news, because there's so much going on in the news that can really disrupt your peace of mind. Having that coffee, having that ginger tea or green tea, having that time in order to have your playtime, whatever that may be for you. But just whatever brings you peace. So being able to know what conversations that you're willing to talk about and not talk about. These are just some concepts of things that allow you to have healthy boundaries with individuals. So the activity that you will do for your journaling is write down ways that you can create healthy boundaries. Write down ways that you can create healthy boundaries. For those who need to, hi, Fairy the Wind 2001, thank you for joining. For those of you who need to Google what healthy boundaries are, I totally am with you. I advise you to. And while you're Googling it, definitely look up the psychologist Gregory Bateson so that you can learn more about the study that he and his team just kind of accidentally stumbled upon. But I always found it to be very phenomenal information when we had learned about it in the grad school class that I was involved in. I was astonished to learn that a lot of times that the patient that's been identified as the patient, it's not really the patient, it's really the family unit. But oftentimes you can't just sever ties. So how do I create healthy boundaries that keeps me healthy-minded and healthy in my mind, healthy in my emotions, healthy in my physical well-being, not allowing yourself to be pressured or bullied is always another one to keep in mind as well. Because sometimes individuals that we're close to have certain ways of triggering us, and they also have certain ways of bullying us, and they know what buttons to push. So it's important to really, in this particular activity, to examine what ways am I triggered? What ways are my button pushed? What ways am I bullied into sometimes doing things that I don't want to, or pressured? It could even be someone who may gossip, and when you're around them, you find yourself gossiping, but it's not really something that you enjoy doing. So maybe the healthy boundary is whenever someone's name gets brought up and they're like, hey, did you know? And I really don't think that that's real. And you can just kind of cut them off and say, hey, I don't even want to engage in this conversation, or I don't know very much about that person to talk about them. Or just be like, hey, how about those Dolphins? Let's talk about Lakers. Let's get on to some sports stuff. What about that weather? This is crazy. It's spring and it's still kind of chilly. Just change the subject if you have to. What ways can you create healthy boundaries that's going to keep you healthy in your mind, your spirit? That's so important, in your spirit, because that's where all this toxicity really does go, is into your spirit and into your unconsciousness. What ways can you keep yourself healthy emotionally, physically? So really look into that. Google it. Find out what some examples of healthy boundaries are. See how you can apply it to your life. And then you're going to journal it. So I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. This was day 3. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.